there and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Angie and I'm a chemist who loves makeup. So today's video is going to be about the Nikita Dragun Beauty Setting Spray. Some people found foreign particles floating in the setting spray, and of course anytime there's any sort of foreign substance in a cosmetic, the internet freaks out rightfully. So the way that this video is going to break down, we are going to look at what the internet has hypothesized these foreign particles to be, and I'm going to give you my take if I think these are plausible or not, what the company says it's supposed to be, and even though the company has come out and said what it is, I'm going to give you my opinion on what I think happened based on my experience as a chemist and with manufacturing. So some people on the internet, of course, think it's mold. That seems to be the first go-to anytime there's a foreign material, is it's mold, regardless of what it looks like and what shape it is. I don't think this is plausible. I don't think this is what it is, and a lot of other people seem to agree, but maybe not necessarily were correct about why they believe this. So a lot of people were saying it has two types of alcohol. It's probably too hard for any sort of bacteria or mold to grow. And there is two types of alcohol in here, but having alcohol just in a formula doesn't necessarily mean that a formula can't grow mold. Alcohol in generals aren't all the same. And alcohol is just any sort of compound that has an OH group. That is the alcohol group. So having alcohol in the name doesn't mean that it's going to help prevent microbial growth. First ingredient that is an alcohol in here is denatured alcohol. And if this is above a certain percentage, it can make it harder for bacteria to grow. But we can't be positive what the concentration is in here. It could be 40, it could be 50, it could be 70 or 80. We just don't know. So I wouldn't say that that's the sole reason. The other ingredient with alcohol in the name is T-butyl alcohol in here. And this doesn't seem to be regularly used for preserving purposes of a formula. In fact, it's more regularly used, for instance, in fragrance ingredients or as a denaturant. And this is what will give that denatured alcohol, that's the first ingredient, its denatured properties. Denaturing the ethanol, the alcohol, it means that you can't drink it. When you use denatured alcohol for something that is not an alcoholic beverage, you have to add that in there in order to not have the taxes that are associated with alcoholic beverages, is my understanding. So this may actually be acting as a denaturant in here. And there is quite a few preservative ingredients in here. You have phenoxyethanol, caproyl glycol, ethyl hexyl glycerin, hexylene glycol, and assuming that they formulated correctly, I don't think that we would see microbial growth this soon after launch. It could in the future, but I don't think that in this instance these foreign particles is microbial growth. Another person thought that maybe it was glitter in this formula. There is no glitter ingredient listed on this formula. It's a very basic formula. There's not really a lot to it. Basically all you have is your solvents, alcohol, and water. You have propylene glycol, that's a humectant. You have the polymer, which we're gonna get into, the preservative system, that other T-butyl alcohol, and sodium hydroxide, which is a pH adjuster. So not a whole lot in here. There's no mica, no synthetic fluorophlogopipe, no alumina, so nothing in here that would be a glitter, and it doesn't even really have a glittery appearance in the picture that I saw. So the company did have a claim on what they say this is. When I looked on their website, they said that this formula has what they call polymer droplets, and that these droplets merge together during application and create a flexible film that helps maintain your makeup and make it last. So it does seem that they are aware of this, and the actual ingredient that this is acrylates acrylamide copolymer. This is the film former that is used in here. This is what they are describing as the polymer droplets. And I do believe that these foreign particles are this polymer, and it seems that they're aware of this, but I don't believe that they intentionally had this happen. I think something happened during the scale-up manufacturing that they were not prepared for, and that's what led to these droplets being described on here. Because of the shape of them, they're not very appealing looking. Part of the reason is when you look at them, the people are kind of concerned about them because they look weird. I would think that if someone were to see this, they would not really want it to look like that. It doesn't really look appealing. Also, we're gonna get into how this ingredient actually works, how it can be incorporated into formulas, and some of the pitfalls with it. That will kind of give my reason to why I think that this wasn't really intentional on their part. So this copolymer is hydrophobic, meaning it does not dissolve in water. And it makes it really, really beneficial when it's applied to your skin and forms this film because it'll be resistant to water. But it is readily soluble, readily dissolvable in alcohol, which, like we said, is the first ingredient in here. So when you are incorporating this into the alcohol, it just dissolves in there. And then to further mix it with the water phase of this, you're supposed to neutralize it and then heat it up, and they should incorporate together. Some people thought maybe it fell out of solution, which would be possible, let's say, if they didn't heat it up enough, or if potentially they didn't neutralize enough. And this formula does have sodium hydroxide in there, so there was an intention of a pH adjuster in there. Heating up is something that they would be able to very easily control, so I don't think this is falling out of solution. And the reason why I also don't think that this is something that's falling out of the solution, that's like crystallizing, most manufacturing facilities are gonna do some stability testing on this, in which they test it out to see if this will fall out of solution over time. And I would like to think that they did that part because it is an important part to the process of creating a product. And it is possible it could have fallen out of solution, but I don't think we would have seen it this soon. I think you would probably either see it over time, or the truck would have had to be in some like massive freeze. My thought process is that it actually probably never got incorporated properly during manufacturing. This copolymer comes as a powder. You have to mix this in slowly. If it gets wet, they kind of fuse together, is my understanding. You're trying to make something with like gums in it, you can't add it all at once. You have to add it in little bits, because if you add it all at once and there's too many particles close together, they all stick together and it becomes very difficult to break them up, which is what I think happened here. Maybe you're thinking, well, wouldn't they know this before they went to production? Well, in the R&D batches, you're working with a very small scale. You're either making it in a beaker or a very small vessel that you're making this in, and very small quantities. So when you're adding these quantities, you don't have as much of it. So it might have mixed in easier. It might have been easier to control. And if they don't do a test batch before production, you make this big batch, you put it in there all at once, and the mixer might not be powerful enough in that big container to mix it properly, and that might be why we're getting these weird chunks in there. And these are things that can happen when you go to full production in very large amounts. So that is my thought on what happened. I think they went to scale up. I think it didn't mix properly. And because it's not easily dissolvable now that there's water incorporated and you have to heat it up, that's why when these people go to shake it, it's not really being incorporated back into the product. If it were something that were falling out of solution, it would probably kind of go back into the solution. But that's not the case that we're seeing with the videos that I have seen. One way that they could avoid this in the future is make what's called a slurry. You can dissolve this in a smaller container that you can thoroughly mix better, and add that mixture into the big tank to easily incorporate it when your mixers aren't as powerful. Because you have like a big vessel, the mixer might not be powerful enough to really break down those chunks of this. And that might be why we have the smaller chunks that we have. A concern I have for this formula in the future, they say that these particles that are in there are supposed to go through the tube and out the sprayer onto your face and then form these films, but I don't really think that these are gonna end up actually getting through the straw. They looked kind of big from the pictures I saw. I could be wrong because I don't have the physical product, but based on what I saw, my fear is kind of if they do end up in the straw, that they won't actually make it through the sprayer and will clog the sprayer. So either they're not going into the product, so you're not getting that film former, or that they're gonna get stuck in the sprayer and people might have problems over time actually spraying it. These are my concerns with this. I would love to know what you think down below. If you learned something today, don't forget to click the like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you can learn more about the science of makeup and skincare, as well as follow my socials so you can get more tidbits of information on there. And with that, I will see you in my next video.